Good afternoon or good morning, depending where in the world you are right now. Welcome to the PMA Foundation's Industry Talent Young Professionals webinar, Define Your Financial Dream. This webinar series is designed to share insights on general business practices, related issues, professional development topics, and other human resource topics to help young professionals in every area of business reach their career development goals. These webinars, as well as other PMA Foundation programs, are made possible through the generous support of companies and individual donors to PMA Foundation's capital campaign and Industry Talent Fund. Perhaps you or your company will consider joining this visionary group if you haven't already. I'm glad you could join us today. I'm Lon Bull, CFO with PMA, and I'm excited to be a part of the team that is bringing you this webinar today. Today's webinar will explore retirement planning and how it fits into your financial goals. Our presenter, Joseph Bill Loon, is a certified financial planner and a partner at the Financial House. He will discuss ways to take advantage of your 401k and help you discover with just a little bit of savings when it's really early can really add up. Joe begins by sharing some background information on himself. He will then present his material, providing time at the end to address any questions you may have. We would like you to send questions to us via the chat feature throughout the webinar program. To do this, please display the drop-down menu at the top of your screen. From there, you can choose the chat option. When you submit your questions, please send to all panelists. Of this webinar is broad. We instructed it to provide a high-level concepts and details that we thought would be of interest and of use to a diverse audience. We'll do our best to address your more specific questions at the end of the presentation. You'll receive an online evaluation at the close of this webinar. This will give you a chance to evaluate the session and also suggest additional webinar topics for us to consider. Your feedback is very valuable to us, so please take minutes of your time to complete the survey. A few brief housekeeping items we'd like to touch on. If you're having trouble with webinar software, please contact WebEx support 866-229-3239 or call us here at the Foundation offices at 22738-7100. Background noise is typically a big problem with virtual meetings. The session has been set up so that all participants are muted as you join. With that said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Joe Bill Loon.
As Yvonne said, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are in this world. My name is Joe Balloon. I'm a partner at Financial House, which is an independent financial planning firm based just outside of Wilmington, Delaware. I've been in the business for over 14 years at this point, and today's conversation is going to focus more on the general aspects of retirement saving. Not so much on the distribution aspect once you reach retirement, but how you can save and get to a point where retirement is a real possibility for you. So my feeling doing these presentations in the past is they become much more powerful if we get some good questions asked throughout the presentation. So I'd encourage you, as questions arise, please send them via your chat feature, and I think we can get a lot of value at the end of the presentation addressing those questions and concerns. So without further ado, we'll get into the presentation and move right along through it. On the first slide here, talk about retirement and what the possibilities are. And the first bullet point you'll see says the new retirement. What do I mean about that? Retirement's really changing in our country. It used to be you retired at 60 or 65 years old, got very conservative with your investments, stopped working, and then passed away by the time you were 70 or 75 years old. So there wasn't as much required, and the intent going into retirement was much different for our grandparents or our parents. The other advantage that the previous generations have had, quite frankly, is corporations provide pension plans, or what we call defined benefit plans. So you would retire and the company would continue to pay you either your full salary or a portion of your salary, continue to cover health care expenses for you and your spouse. And you really, quite frankly, didn't have to worry about saving as much money to fund their lifestyle and their dreams and their aspirations in retirement. Well, as life expectancies have extended, many people are living into their 90s or even 100 right now, pension plans became much more expensive for corporations to maintain and really gone the way of the dinosaur. There's very few corporations that still provide a pension plan. I think unless you work for the federal government, you pretty much don't see them anymore. And a lot more of the onus has come on to you, the employee, to save and provide for your retirement. And it can take, we'll see as we go through this, quite a bit of savings to provide income you need throughout retirement. You can almost spend as many years in retirement now as you did working, and that can become quite an expensive endeavor to save for. So some new attitudes, I'm not going to go through all those bullet points, but these are surveys that have been done as people enter retirement, and you see that most people now view retirement a little bit differently. They retire from what their primary occupation was, but still look to do something in retirement, whether that's a part-time job, whether it's volunteering, much more active, physically active, mentally active in retirement today. One of the things that I spend a lot of time talking to people about is what's important to them, what's important about their money, what are they saving for, what do they want to accomplish, what are their goals, what are their dreams, and some of the typical responses there. Most people want to spend more time with their family. Usually that involves the grandchildren. Traveling the world is also very common. You see volunteering, staying active in your community, getting more time to hobbies, activities, and leaving a legacy. That is also very important. People see money and they want to see that money passed on to future generations, and spend a good deal of time working with clients on how to do that effectively and efficiently, limiting taxes, making sure how they want the money distributed is actually how it gets distributed. And that sometimes can be an unfortunate situation, and not to go off topic here and get estate planning, but we've seen many times when the money is on the table, that family that you thought had a loving, trusting relationship becomes much more contentious when they're divvying up the assets. So a good, solid estate plan that ensures assets are divided the way you want them to be is very important. Strong foundation, and what we'll get into here is, you need to save, you need to accumulate assets, because as we're going to talk about, people are living longer than ever. And I think as you enter and get into retirement, you need to understand what your lifestyle is and really understand what you're spending and where you're spending it. This gets into what I call need expenses and what expenses, right? You need to eat, you need to pay the utility bills, you need to pay your mortgage. That you need to have come in every month. You may want to take vacations and want to have a nicer car, or want to, have the country club membership, but you don't need that income to come in. So having a divide there, knowing what's really needed that you have come in, and then the supplemental income is important. And then devising a strategy to come up to make sure you can cover those needed expenses. And you do that through Social Security, through, again, pensions if you have it, maybe additional income if you're working, or annuities are listed there. And I'm not going to get into specifics of what annuities are, but the basic answer is they provide a guaranteed income stream for the rest of your life. Most of what you have. Be well balanced, be well diversified. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That we mean by well balanced, well diversified. Make sure you always have some part of your portfolio can do well in any market environment. You never want everything to go up all at once, because it's a surefire way to ensure it's going to come down all at once. And typically what's done well, the previous year or 3 years is not going to do well the next 3 to 5 years. Plenty for the expected, the unexpected. Important as you save for retirement. It's also very important to consider insurance, all kinds of life, disability insurance, and long-term care. All very valuable parts of a retirement plan. Insurance, life insurance specifically, is there to replace your income if you should, leave plan a little bit sooner than you expect. Disability income, I would make an argument, is almost more important than life insurance. The statistics show us that you're actually more likely to become disabled than die, and actually more of a financial drain on your family disabled than dead. If you're disabled, you're still around taking up resources, you're eating, there's your medical expenses, there's all care, whereas if you're deceased, obviously those expenses don't exist. So if you don't have those fundamental insurances in place, I would urge you very strongly to consider them. Minimal coverage, some coverage is better than no coverage. With disability, I think you want to have enough to cover, your mortgage, your utilities, your groceries. Remember that I call it mortgage insurance, right? Mortgage, utilities, groceries. Add them up by enough disability to cover that. Should be a fairly inexpensive way to develop some basic coverages there. A little cartoon here, basically illustrating the importance of savings. And you have a husband and wife sitting down, and the husband to the wife, here's our retirement plan at age 65. We'll get divorced, then marry people who plan better. And, it's funny, but it's not. I think to be funny, there has to be some truth in it. And it's not funny because the Federal Reserve just did a study that shows 40% of Americans aged 45 to 64 years old have saved absolutely zero for retirement. They have no assets in retirement plans. So, and as we get through this, we'll see the importance of starting early. This isn't something that should be, okay, I'm going to wait till I earn more. I'll wait till my kids are out of college. I'll wait till this. I'll wait till that. Starting soon, even at a small amount, can really add up and make a big difference. So from the wealth building to your lifetime income, some tools here while you're young. And tools are your working income, regular savings, regular investments, and asset allocation. These are the tools you're going to use to build up those retirement accounts and put yourself in a position to retire when you want to retire. And you want to, because I think that's very powerful, a very powerful tool in your life to get to a point where you can do what you want to do, not what you have to do. You may want to work till you're 75 or 80 years old. That's great. I don't want to have to work till you're that age. When you get to the lifetime income part of life, you go from sort of the accumulation phase of investing to the distribution phase. Much more focused on the income your investments can generate at this point versus the growth they can provide. Some external sources, Social Security, pension, maybe you're working at that point, just earn a couple bucks an hour, supplement. Your lifestyle choices, we talked about, the travel, the country clubs. Cash flow management, when you get to retirement, it's like buying a house, right? When you buy a house, it's location, location, location. When you retire, it's cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. It's the only thing, not the only thing, but the most important thing as you go into retirement. We talked about annuities and the guaranteed income they provided, and a bit investment strategy. The common thought there, you want to become much more conservative, move to more fixed investments in retirement, and that's not necessarily the case. Again, you still need some growth in the portfolio because you could spend 30, 35, 40 years retirement, and if you factor in inflation and taxes, you're going to need some of the growth that equities provide. Risks of getting into when you go into retirement. First and foremost, longevity, just basically outliving your money. So you need a plan for assets to last potentially to age 100. A 60-year-old couple has a 50% chance that one spouse will live until age 91. So the potential, again, to spend 35 years in retirement. Another cartoon here that I thought was kind of funny, old Dilbert cartoon where they had Dogbert, the financial planner, saying to his client, with advances in healthcare, you could live to be 200. And he then says, if you have a good plan, that will last 120. Only the last 120 years will be spent in squat. His advice: a diversified portfolio and more bacon. So, again, longevity risk is really one of the biggest risks you face as you go into retirement. Allocation, healthcare costs, I touched on this briefly. There's a tendency to shift much more conservative investments. It's not necessarily a good idea. Healthcare costs currently increasing at 8% a year, and a recent study showed retirees may need as much as $300,000 to pay medical expenses. That's just medical care. That's not long care, nursing home care that could be needed as well. So the inflation in healthcare, the inflation in energy costs are much higher than what's actually reported in CPI numbers, and those are what affect retirees the most. Inflation, another risk to retirement. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. If you have more questions on inflation, please ask, but I think it's a pretty simple concept. We all know $1 today is not going to be worth as much as $1 in the future. We all know what we paid for our first car and our first house, and then we're going to pay for those in today's dollars. So we need to protect against inflation. Withdrawal rate, and we talked about spending, and I think this may come as a shock to some people, but there's been numerous studies that have been shown what a safe withdrawal rate is, and the number really falls around 4 to 5%. So if you have an income of $50,000 in retirement, which may or may not be enough when you add in Social Security and earned income, you need to have $1 million saved by the time of your retirement to provide that income for the rest of your life, or a pretty substantial risk of running out of money. And I hate to say this, but I will because it's true. It really comes down to luck when you retire, how long your assets are going to last. And what I mean by that is you can't predict what the markets are going to do, but if you get a down market, what we call a bear market, those first 2 years after you retire, it really puts you behind the 8 ball. Because if you think, if you had $1 million portfolio and the markets dropped 1%, right, and they're down 100,000, so now you've got 900,000, and you're still taking that $50,000 withdrawal, well, your 5% withdrawal just jumped to 6, and it compounds on itself. And if you have depreciating value early on, it gets very hard to dig yourself out of that hole, and those 5% withdrawals now become 6, 7, 8%. So you really need to be able to be flexible with your withdrawal rate in retirement. And you have good years, maybe you take a little bit more, but if there's a bad year in the market, you got to be willing to take less. So you need to have some flexibility, cash flow as you go through retirement. One more comment, I think, as we talk about withdrawal rates, I'll talk to people about sort of different phases of retirement, and I think when you go to retirement early on, you could have a higher withdrawal rate because there's more things you want to do. You want to take more trips. Maybe you're taking 2, 3 trips a year, but once you go through that point, you've been there, you've done that, maybe health has deteriorated, and now you're only going to take 1 trip a year. So you have the go-go phase of retirement where you're doing everything you wanted to do and you're very active. Then you move into sort of what I call the slow-go phase, where you're slowing down a little bit, taking 1 trip a year. And then I think we've all seen the people that get to the no phase, where they're there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and just getting out of bed in the morning's a good day. So maybe spend a little bit more early on, which is okay. You just need to go into it with the anticipation that you're going to drop that withdrawal rate as you move through retirement. We're now going to move to what you can do currently, and I hope many of you are provided retirement plans through your employer. If not, please ask questions at the end, and I will give you some techniques and some options you have if your employer doesn't have a plan. But I'm going to move ahead, and as many of you do have employer plans that you're able to contribute to. Next slide shows a little bit of savings can really add up over time. And what slide really shows is just what all learned in, I think, high school math, is the effects of compound interest. And you'll see at the end of it, as we get from year 20 to 25 and then 20 to 30, that's all the real growth in the portfolio came. We didn't do a whole lot of growth for years 5 to 10 to 15, but we went on the compounding, made a difference. And what this illustration is showing us is that this is a $100 a month investment earning 8%. So you put in $36,000 over 30 years, but that portfolio grew to 150. So just a little bit of savings can grow to a significant amount. The next slide here shows the benefits of starting early. So if you start, when you first start your career out of college, starting later, maybe 10 or 15 years later, the differences we can see there. So this is somebody contributing just $40 every 2 weeks, so $80 a month. One person starting at age 25, the other starting at age 35, and there's a difference of $200,000 at the end of the day, starting 10 years earlier. And again, I think that reflects back to the previous slide. It's that compound growth they got that last 10 years for that 25-year-old is where they really got the outperformance. Many of your employers hopefully provide some sort of match to your contribution, meaning if you put money into the plan, they match it dollar for dollar or 50 cents on the dollar up to a certain percentage. And meaning that's free money. And if you're not putting in it at least enough to get a match, you're making a big mistake. And we have illustrations as we go through here. The more you contribute, the more the employer will put to your plan limit. So you have the example, you have a corporation that offers a 6% match, and you have the first employee putting in 3%, therefore they're only matched to 3%. You then have that Susan. You have John on the other side that takes advantage of the full match. He puts in 6%, and employer match at 6%. So you have the one employee putting in just under $2,000, $1,950. The other employee putting in just under $4,000. And how that adds up over time is that 30 years, Sue, who was just doing 3%, is sitting at $244,000. John, who took advantage of the full match, doubled that and put in $488,000. So not a whole lot extra contributions, just percent more on, I think it was an average salary of only $32,000. So not in terms of dollars, but at the end of the day, a discrepancy in what's there, and that's due to the employer match as well. Two things to keep in mind with your retirement plan. You can only receive the match if you contribute to the plan. So if you're not contributing, or you're not getting a match. That's 100% true. There are some plans that are called safe harbor plans that put in 3% match across the board. So you may get something, but part of the time you got to put it in to get the match. And to receive the maximum, you need to put in the full amount specified under your plan. So whether that's 3%, 4%, 6%, whatever your plan specifies, good to talk to your human resources manager, find out what that is, and then contribute to that amount. We'll move on here. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about Roth IRAs, differences there. They act as a planning tool to you. I will also mention Roth 401ks becoming much more popular. So you may check to see if you're your employee to see if the Roth option is available to you your 401k. My advice is, depending on what your earnings are, it makes more sense for you to contribute to the Roth portion of your 401k than the traditional side, and we'll go through examples why. What are the differences between a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, and a traditional 401k plan or a traditional IRA account? First, under a traditional IRA, that money goes into your account pre-tax. So before taxes are paid on that money, it comes out of your paycheck or however you pay and goes into the account. Important to note there that just because you did $100 to pay to your 401k, because it came out of your check before taxes were taken, it will not be a $100 difference to your paycheck. Your paycheck will be down something less than that, probably only $75 to $85 in your pay, because less money is being taxed. So you get a current tax break under your traditional IRA or your traditional 401k. So money comes out pre-tax, so no tax on the money currently. All the growth in that account will be tax deferred, meaning you don't pay any taxes while that money stays in that account and grows. You take that money out, that's taxed at ordinary income rates. And the theory behind that is in retirement, you're probably in a lower tax bracket than you are while you're working. So out of your check, maybe when you're in a 25% bracket, then in retirement, when you're in a 15% bracket, you pull the money out and pay a lower tax bracket, pay total tax. That's how the traditional works. The Roth, on the other hand, you pay taxes today. So you pay taxes on the money that go before you contribute to the plan, taxes taken out. So less money goes in up front. However, that money continues to grow tax deferred, much like it does in the traditional IRA. But when you take the money out, it's all tax free. So have time on your side. That's a much better way to go, right? You're going to pay taxes on a small amount of money, and then after all the growth, the large pool you're going to pay no taxes on. Or initially you pay taxes on the small amount, but then all the taxes at the end on the growth. So the Roth is a really good, really powerful retirement planning tool that I would encourage all of you to take advantage of if you're not. This slide shows kind of the differences on a $291,000 account. In traditional IRA or traditional 401k, the value of that account after you pay the taxes drops all the way down to $128,000. However, the Roth account, the full value, the $191, will count to you tax-free. So you can see the difference between the two, and as you go on, the Roth really makes a big difference to you. So with that, I think that's going to sum up my general comments on retirement planning. I hope it was helpful. I know it's kind of quick, but I did want to leave some time for some questions that you have. So that, I think we'll open it up, and if we have some questions, I'll start to take those.
Remind everybody to use the chat function. If you just use the drop box at the top and click on chat, send your chat to all panelists, and then we'll read your questions aloud, and Joe will answer them for us. One of the questions that we wanted to start with that we have is, my 401k has so many investment choices. How can I choose what's best for me?
That's a great question. Many 401ks have at least a 2 dozen investment choices, and how can you really decipher what's best? And typically what people do is they unfortunately look at the performance, they look at what fund's done the best over the last 12 months, and they end up putting 100% of their money into that fund. And we can see what happens is that fund now goes the other direction. They become disheartened with their fund and stop contributing. So what I suggest is many plans today offer what are called target date funds, or retirement target date funds. And they have specific target dates at the end. And the further you go out, the more aggressive the funds are. I really like those funds for a couple of reasons. One is they provide all of the diversification that you should have. So they just don't own one type of stock or one type of bond. So you throw your eggs in one basket with a target date fund. It gives you all the diversification you need without having to pick 10 funds to do that. The other thing is as you get closer and closer to that target date that you've picked, the fund automatically gets more conservative for you. The allocations are automatically shift to be more focused for someone entering retirement. So it's really almost a set it and forget option of your 401k. So I really like those funds if available to you.
Joe, question. I hear that you were able to pull me out of your 401k to buy a house, for a Roth IRA without a penalty. Is this true?
Yes, it is true as long as it is for I think, a first home purchase, a primary residence. So it can't be for the vacation home at the beach, but if you are, you're living in an apartment after college and you're looking to buy a house, you can pull that money out without a 10% penalty. If you pull money out of a retirement plan, a 401k, an IRA, any of those type of assets before age 59 and a half, typically there is a 10% early withdrawal penalty. Primary residence, first home purchase is one of those exceptions. Death, disability, or other exceptions, as well as education funding.
Joe, a question. Are there other things that I should do financially before I start saving for retirement?
That's another great question, because you don't want to save for retirement and then have an emergency around home you can't pay for. Your 401k is not a savings plan. It's not something you should contribute to, and then if an emergency arises, you pull money out of it. So, yes, there are things you should do besides saving for your 401k. I would recommend some sort of cash reserve, some sort of emergency fund. Typically 3 to 6 months of expenses is what's recommended. So look at having some cash reserve. So if you own a house and you need a new roof, or the water heater goes, or something goes wrong with the car, it needs new tires, or what transmission, whatever, you have funds to do that, and you're not hitting the retirement plan or running up credit card debt to pay for that. So I think the insurance needs are also very important. I think getting those type of needs funded as well should kind of take precedence over the 401k.
Okay. The next question, a little long, we'll try to see if we understand it. I've heard stories about folks maxing out their 401k plan to then be disappointed or in trouble when the market falls at the same time that they want to take money out. Is it advisable to diversify your investments, not just in the 401k, even though you will be paying taxes on the money before investing in other places?
And I think the question gets to say profit or good asset selection within your 401k. Your 401k should have investment options that range from very high risk to very low risk. And if you save above and beyond your 401k, absolutely doing some saving outside that is advisable. But I think you can get all types of investments you should own to get diversification within your 401k. Some things IRAs don't provide, real estate, usually like exposure, if you wanted that as part of your portfolio, those type of things, yeah, you might have to go out of the 401k to get. But if you suggest you get a trusted advisor to look at your 401k, and you probably can get all the diversification you need there. I think we're getting at just comes to people getting, I don't want to getting lazy, but getting comfortable with how their 401ks had been performing up to retirement, didn't have enough attention to it, and then as opposed to retirement, markets pulled back, and yeah, now there's some disappointment there because they didn't make their appropriate changes.
Question. If your employer does not offer a retirement plan, where should you look to put the money?
Okay. Another great question. Just because your employer doesn't provide a plan doesn't mean there's nothing you can do for yourself. You can go to the local bank, you can go to Charles Schwab, any of the online resources, if you're just starting out, and open your own personal IRA account or a Roth IRA account. Maximum contributions are a little bit lower than the 401k, so you have a little bit of a disadvantage there. But you can put up to $6,000 a year under 50 today if you want to go on your own. So you do have ways in your own accounts if your employer does not provide a plan to you.
Do target date funds adjust for risk as you near retirement?
I think I mentioned this, they automatically start to get more conservative as you approach that retirement date. So there's a couple of things to look at. You could say, I may retire until 2040, but I'm not comfortable with that level of risk. So you pick a 2020 or 2015 fund. Other thing I would caution you at is the retirement target date funds are designed to last through your retirement. So I think the common perception is they get very conservative as they approach that target date, and that's not the case. I would tell you, if you look at the 2015 fund your plan provides, it's still pretty allocated towards stocks. That's because these funds are designed to be your retirement investment throughout the next 15 or 20 or 30 years. So they do have more equity exposure, stock exposure than I think is perceived, but they do get more conservative as you get closer.
Next question. Is it advisable to hold back a little on 401 contributions in order to put money aside each month for a children's college fund?
That's a great question. I think a lot of young parents really struggle with that. They want to save for retirement, but the kids are also a priority. I would tell you that you can borrow to fund education. You can't borrow to fund your retirement. So I think you're better off. This is just I think you're better off funding your own 401k and your own retirement first. And then if you've maxed out or you've done that saving, then saving some to help offset education costs is important as well. But you'll have other options as the kids get to college to help fund that more than your own savings. In retirement, you won't have that option.
Just the difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k.
Sure. Excuse me. The Roth 401k falls under your employer plan. That's offered by your employer. It has a higher contribution limit, up to $16,500 this year. And that's offered through your employer. That's the key difference. The IRA is something you would open up on your own, and it's going to have the lower contribution limit assigned with it. Okay?
All right. Generally don't earn a lot and am not able to contribute much to my 401k. Is it still worth it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we saw that from some slides there, that even a person saving $40 every couple of weeks, $100 a month, that money really adds up. So whatever you can do, I think is a good idea. I would also caution you not to do too much. Don't overextend yourself, because what I've seen is go into gung-ho and start withholding 10%. Then that becomes a little bit too much, and they stop, and they never get back in. So I'd rather you start small, see how that affects your pay, see how that affects your cash flow, and build on it from there as you get more comfortable.
Just to piggyback on that question, at what age would you suggest it's the best time to look at a traditional IRA versus a Roth IRA, and age is the deciding factor?
And the answer there, I hate to be wishy-washy, but it depends. IRAs certainly are better for younger folks, because you really need to get the benefit of paying the taxes currently, making up the money, and then getting that extra growth. Is there an age that's a deciding factor? Not really, because Roth IRAs, if you're enough not to need all your retirement money, Roth IRAs are a very, very powerful legacy planning tool, because not only did that money then grow tax-free over your life, it's going to grow tax-free over your kid's life and go out tax-free to them. So, I mean, that's potentially 30, 40, 50 years of growth, all tax-free. So the Roth IRA can almost always make sense, but from a legacy planning point of view, they're very powerful tools. You don't start, if you're going to need the money and use all of them, you don't want to start at, I'd say, 50, 55, putting money into the Roth. At that point, maybe a little bit more benefit to getting the current tax deduction.
Our next question, in general, would you recommend hiring a financial planner? And if so, do you have any advice for choosing one and what your expectations should be?
Well, I think my response will be a little bit biased since I'm a financial planner, but I'll try to keep my comments as general as I can personally. I think a financial planner can be a very valuable tool to anybody that's already saved a lot of assets on their own through their 401k, or somebody just out. And the reason why is we is an independent third party that can play devil's advocate. You know, you're thinking about buying that new car, buying that second house, or doing this, doing that. We can sometimes bring ideas to light that you haven't thought of, and act as a sounding board. So having somebody that has that experience, I think very valuable. Now, do you have to work with one on an ongoing basis where you're paying them, annual fees to manage your assets? No. Can you go to somebody just for, initial advice, pay them an hourly fee, and circle back and touch base with them every couple of years? Yes. I think as well as having some interaction with a professional, I think that's important. The other reason it's important is, money is very emotional, right? We're all very emotional about our money. If we lose money, it's upsetting. The studies have shown people get much more upset than they're happy when assets go up. So, acting as an advisor can help take some of that emotion out of it. When markets go down, we can be for the reassurance that, okay, look, we have a plan. We know markets are going to do this. We anticipated this. This is the effect it's having. Let's not panic. Let's not go to all the and try to time things. So, yeah, financial planners are important. I would tell you the best way to fund that may be right for you is to talk to your friends and family, see who they're using, see who's happy with. I suggest that you interview at least 2 to 3. Also, look for that when you meet with them, they're asking you pertinent questions. They're not just sitting there telling you why they're the best, while their investment methods always work. They're really trying to get to know you and what's important to you. I would look for someone that is a CFP, a certified financial planner. With that went a lot of extra education, a very stringent test, very high code of ethics. I think if you work with a CFP, you're getting a high level of advice. I know that sounds self-serving because I am one. But I do believe that to be true.
All right. What are some of the key pieces of information that you should look for in your statements each month?
Each month, you should just take a look. And, I almost think monthly is almost too often to be looking at a 401k statement. Because from month to month, even year to year, markets are going to be pretty volatile. So, again, I don't want anyone to get that emotionally involved with what's going on a month-to-month basis, because you'll see some pretty big swings. What you want to look at is more long-term trends of the funds you've invested in, and I think this is where working with a financial pro or professional can be helpful, because while one fund may underperform for a year, maybe its long-term track record is very good. Maybe just that asset class was out of favor last year, and you should hold on to it. So it's not just how it's done absolutely, but how it's done relative to the markets, relative to its peer group is important. So I think when you're researching your investments, it's not just the performance, it's how is it done versus its peers. So I would suggest you try to get apples to apples comparison of your investments to what else is out there. So on a month basis, just kind of keep an eye on it, and I think if you can be active and be involved and say, okay, I know the markets were down, and you look at your account statement and it's down, at least then it's not a surprise to you that what's going on. I think if you ever see a drop that seems much more significant than what occurred in the markets, I think then you really need to take a hard and fast look at what it was, why it occurred. I think as long as you're educated and you know why things are going on, you've got a leg up.
Are fund investing better than choosing individual stocks?
Good question. Personally, I'm a proponent of mutual funds versus individual stocks, and I'll give a couple of reasons why. I think you need a lot of diversification in your portfolio, and that's what mutual funds provide. They're a basket of hundreds of stocks. Now, is reward as great in an individual fund versus stock? No, absolutely not. But you also don't run the risk of one stock entire retirement plan, of course. And there's numerous examples I can give you locally. We have a bank, Wilmington Trust. Used to be $4 a share. 2008 hit, it went to 2. Enron is the most popular one. You know, a lot of company stock, and they're out of business. Lehman Brothers is another one. Washington Mutual. I mean, the list goes on and on. And a lot of these are very well-respected companies, and they were very well-respected on Friday, and on Monday they weren't. And one stock, you just never know. But so I like the downside protection, the more downside protection you get owning a mutual fund, because if one stock in the fund goes bad, the rest of the fund is there to support the overall portfolio. So I think you have what I would consider very significant investments up to over $100 before you start messing with an individual stock portfolio to get the diversification you need.
About disability insurance and the fact that you should cover your mortgage and your utilities. Mm-hmm. What life insurance? How is it enough?
Enough. Again, great questions, guys. How much is enough? You know, the off-the-cuff answer is I never had a widow come in and said we've had too much insurance. But you don't want to over-insure yourself. I think a lot of our clients are surprised with how much insurance they really do need, especially at a young age. Because you're looking to replace your income not just for 20 or 30 years, but maybe potentially 50 years, and it takes a significant amount of insurance to do that. You know, I think some people underestimate the need for insurance and say, all right, if I just have enough to pay my mortgage and get the kids through college, great, my spouse can take care of the difference. And that may or not be the case, but do you put your spouse in that situation, or do you want to give them the option to spend more time at home with the kids, to not have to work, you know, a 40 to 50-hour work week? And insurance is a great way to leverage some dollars. Insurance is also very powerful because all of the proceeds from life insurance are tax-free. So no tax is due on any life insurance proceeds. So another real benefit of life insurance.
So that's definitely a no, that widows do not have to pay any taxes on their insurance money.
No, they do not.
All right. Well, we'd like to thank Joe for his time and his willingness to share the information, and I'd like to thank each one of you for participating today. I think you take away the same key message that I think was conveyed, and is that we should all start saving now. We're glad you could join us and hope this session was very helpful for you. Joe's presentation, along with the audio portion of this session, will be available via our website at PMAfoundation.com in the coming weeks. A couple upcoming items that may be of interest to you. First, our next webinar is scheduled for September 17th. Please your calendars and prepare to join us. Also, the PMA Foundation offers scholarships through our Tip Murphy Scholarship for Leadership Excellence. It provides an opportunity for young professionals to attend one of our growing number of PMA and PMA Foundation programs and events. This scholarship is by generous contributions along with proceeds from the Tip Murphy Memorial Golf Tournament. The scholarship covers the cost of a registration and the associated hotel expenses for one individual for the event they choose. For additional details and to apply, please visit us at PMAfoundation.com under Programs and Events. Finally, to the many contributors who make the PMA Foundation's work possible. A final member to all of our participants, you will receive a webinar evaluation as soon as the session is complete. Please take a few moments to complete it when it arrives, as it will help us improve our webinar series. You will not have an opportunity to go back to it once you exit, so we would ask that you take a few minutes to complete it when it pops up. I thank you all again, and please enjoy the rest of your day.
Yvonne, before we hang up, my contact information is up there. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that we did not get to today. Thank you.